The Reggae Boys are officially knocked out of the 2025 Gold Cup, and we have to start asking questions, or continue asking questions, actually, about Steve McClaren as their manager. My name is Elijah. I'm joined with Joaquin and Andres, per usual. Before we get into it, let me know in the comments right now if you think Steve McClaren should stay or Steve McClaren should be sacked from the Reggae Boys. But yeah, gentlemen. Simple question. Whoever wants to answer it first. Should Steve be on his way out?
Bro, he's got to go, blood. He's got to go. That was just shit, honestly. That was a shit full 90 minutes. There was probably like 10 minutes of football that was like acceptable to play. Probably the goal, and then maybe towards the end of the first half where they got should have got a penalty, but they didn't for some unknown reason. But yeah, that was just poor. Not just poor that game, but poor. Like, you can't get grouped in the Gold Cup. There's like Copa America. That's one thing. You know what I mean? It's like, all right. Like, understandable. Yeah, you're in a tough group. Gold Cup with that group, you lose to Guatemala for the first time in 13 years. And you just beat them a couple weeks ago, 3-0. Yes, it's a different team than it was. No excuse there. And then you barely beat Guadalupe, thanks to Andre Blake. Mm-hmm. He has to go. There's nothing happening that's, like I said on the live stream during the game, I was like, they're just going through the motions. The first 10 minutes of them looks like they're doing a little possession drill of just moving back and forth and not doing anything, and they're just getting blown back.
And not even doing it well.
Yeah, no.
They're not even doing the drill well.
They're literally walking or jogging. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the defenders too, because there's so much wrong with this team, and it just gotten worse since Steve took over, if I'm being honest, because at least it was like bearable to watch to an extent, but now it's just, you just can't. I was getting frustrated just watching. It's not even my team I support, but like I was just like, I can't believe I've wasted 2 hours of my life, that I'm never getting back watching
Steve McClaren
these bums play football, or if that's what you want to call it, because they got dominated the entire second half.
Yeah, no, that was rough. It was probably one of the worst watches if you're a Reggae Boy supporter in terms of a tournament in a long time. Stick to F1. Don't come to Jamaica. Stick to F1, baby. I mean, obviously, if you feel differently and you think that Steve McClaren should stay maybe through the World Cup or beyond, or a little bit longer, let us know in the comments why. But I can promise you 95% of those comments are going to be Steve's out. And I fully agree with him. We had people on this live stream yesterday calling for a petition to get him out. And yeah, you probably get a lot of people signing that if you made a petition just like that. Let's roll it back to Jaime Haugemson a little bit when he was manager, right? Wasn't a horrible manager. Was he the right fit for Jamaica? I don't necessarily think so. Was I okay with him going at the time? Yeah, I thought it was time for Jamaica to move on. Do I miss him right now? With all of my being, do I miss him right now? Unfortunately, he's the coach for Ireland now. We are stuck with good old pink Steve McClaren. And yeah, there's nothing for me that says he should be staying, right? Like, comparing him to Jaime, not an upgrade, hardly a lateral move, maybe a regression, right? And I was excited at the time. Looking back on it, I think I got a little ahead of myself. It's just because you're an assistant coach at Manchester United doesn't mean you know much. And it's very obvious that Steve McClaren does not know how to manage in CONCACAF football, let alone maybe, which hasn't happened yet, maybe in the World Cup if you were to stick around. If you can't handle CONCACAF football, you're not going to be able to handle the dynamic of a bunch of teams from around the world in the World Cup, on the world stage, if you can't beat a Guatemala or a Guadalupe soundly here. So Big Steve's got to go. But that raises another question. Is the timing of it right now a factor for the JFF, you think? Like, would they keep him? Should they keep him through the World Cup because it's only a year away? He's gotten them to this round of the World qualifiers already. Should they keep him for that matter? Or regardless, just get rid of him because of that Gold Cup?
I mean, I think like they'd have to do it now. But if they wait too long at that point, they'll just keep him, get some chemistry going, or continue to keep it going for the World Cup. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you have to do it now. Otherwise, bring someone new in to change and start implementing their own tactics and give them some time.
Yeah, I mean, you have until September as well. So a good amount of time here to figure something out. Andres, your thoughts?
It's the thing is I said this on the live stream. I said a lot of things on the live stream. We went over it, a little bit. But it's just like making the World Cup is the bare minimum, especially with the way it's presented for the CONCACAF region in the sense of, you have the big three. hosting. So you don't got to compete against them to qualify. And there's some spots open for other CONCACAF teams. And if Jamaica want to be there, and they should be there, being the what you said, the fourth most expensive
Fourth
squad.
most expensive team in the Gold Cup. Yes.
Yeah, and you're expecting to be there, and I understand it's a predicament, but there's still a year. You know what I mean? Like if it was like a Mexico, United States, Canada, you don't really have those World Cup qualifiers. You only got friendlies to implement those squads. Tactics at least, and it's a little bit different. But these are competitive games, and so therefore, there's more stakes to them. You can bond with the players a little bit more. And let's be honest, they have an easier group. For these World Cup qualifiers before the Gold Cup got announced. Obviously they got announced for their group, and then everyone I remember seeing on Twitter, Instagram, in the comments saying like, "Oh, this is an easy group for us. We'll do it." So this is a good transition time of manager if you're gonna do one, because let's be honest, like it can't get much worse than this. And I just unplugged my headphones, but it can't get much worse than this in terms of losing 4-1 to Panama. Not even 4-1, like complete domination, and then Guatemala 1-0, which is diabolical if you ask me. And then Guadalupe was hard to watch still, and I felt robbed, and I didn't even pay for anything, but I felt robbed watching all three of those games. Well, I did pay for the first one, but it's still a flat out robbery. I want an apology from the JFF saying our bad guys, and also the players got to take some accountability too, because that was shocking stuff. But this is about the manager. We'll talk about the Jamaica as a whole, but I'm just frustrated because I was slowly getting this hype train going. Like I was like, this team, they get through this group. I'm just saying, they can get something done. No. And if they had to play, bro, if they had to play Canada, bro, I feel bad. I feel bad for this team because that's a 6-7-0 dumping, if you ask me. But
another Honduras match for Canada there. And what sucks too is like I feel right before going into the Gold Cup, they were looking pretty good, right? They were doing pretty good in World qualifiers, and granted, much different opponent. Doing pretty good World qualifiers. They had a great time over at that Unity Cup. Didn't win it, but nearly did, despite playing somewhat of a B team, playing against other B teams. They still looked really good. Spirits were fairly high, generally high, which had a lot of people excited for this Gold Cup, including me. And to go out in the way that you did, absolute disaster. I mean, Steve McClaren in his time for Jamaica, we have seen little to no progress, little to zero improvement. And every time it looks like it's going to happen, they kind of regress a little bit. And yes, you're right, Andres. The players do need to take some accountability because they are responsible. Steve can't go out there and tell them to start to get it going the first 25 minutes like he can as much as he wants to, but they're not going to do it. It's up to the players to do what needs to be done. And it's obvious that they don't, I don't want to say fully care, but the ambition is not there. The effort's not there.
I don't like picking on players. I really don't, unless it's Charlie. But Casey Palmer, I got some beef with, bro. I like, not as a person, but as a footballing IQ sense watching that game. Oh, the brother caused 2 goals. First, the penalty, which I don't know, in what world would you ever grab someone like that and then pull him and then expect not a penalty for him to go down? And then the goal where the last goal they scored, Panama scored. Brother played poor Pinnock a horrible ball, so Pinnock had to try and play that one time, and then it hits the back of the Panamanian player. Like, he was just horrid the entire game. And then he kept trying to shoot long shots for what? And it was field goal after field goal. He had 1 on target. Congratulations. As a professional footballer player, I could hope you could hit a grounder right towards the keeper in the bottom corner. Like, oh, man. Sorry. He just pissed me off the entire time. Like, I don't know why he's
Change the video title to Casey Palmer out.
Dude, yeah. You know what? It's something with midfielders, man. I just got beef with the midfielders, apparently. Just him particularly. I would like him to take some accountability because, it could have been 2-1 if you really think about it. Could have been 2-1. Take away those 2 goals that he caused. But, whatever. Back to good old Steve. Man.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, like name. I said, the it's crazy. The problems that Jamaica had before with Heimer Hallgrimsson are the same ones we have now, which is there's no creative build-up, no build-up through the midfield, no great chances being created and whatnot. And you sacked Heimer for that reason, or he leaves for that reason, right? And you would think that you need to bring somebody in to remedy that. And I don't know what Steve McClaren was telling Jamaica in that interview process, but he hasn't done anything to remedy that. And there's a number of different remedies you can do. Obviously, you set up the team a different way. With Jamaica's case, you start trying to recruit a lot of these dual nationals. And I'm not going to say I know the whole process for them and what they've tried or haven't tried to do, But you bring in Isaac Hayden, that's one thing. You bring in Lewis Baker and you decide not to play him, that's another thing. There was no effort made by Steve, I feel like, to remedy Jamaica's problems, and that's why they're in the exact same, if not a worse spot now than when he got here, than when Jaime left. And that's what kills it the most, right? I mean, Jamaica has spent how many years now being the next up-and-coming CONCACAF team, like the next ones to be up there because they have such a good team, such good depth relative to CONCACAF, all this stuff. And yeah, it's not fully Steve McClaren's fault. There's a lot of other factors at play with the JFF and whatnot. But Steve, he should have been the next, or his appointment should have been the one to bring him back to those heights. So that's what's super disappointing. And now we're sitting here a year before the World Cup, which they haven't fully qualified for yet. And they are now at a greater risk of not qualifying for that. And a lot of it is Steve McClaren's fault. A lot of it is 100%. I'm not saying they're not going to qualify. I still think they are in a good spot to qualify in their group for the World Cup, but the hope in them, the confidence in them, I guess, is way lower than about a month ago, unfortunately, and I feel like that's the general consensus. I think if Steve were to leave or to be sacked, they would have to go with a CONCACAF manager, right? And I can imagine what they were trying to do was, because they have a lot of players on this Jamaican team from English descent, obviously having been born and or raised in England and playing amongst the English team's youth systems and whatnot. That doesn't mean you need to hire an English coach. It doesn't translate in the same way, in the way that you would think. You need to bring in a CONCACAF experienced coach. Now, I'm not going to start naming names because I don't know. If there's one name I would like is Paul Hall, but you're not going to learn away from QPR right now in the current state that you're in, especially for somebody who knows the ins and outs of the JFF. I can't imagine he'd want to come here, but you have to get someone who's somewhat experienced in the region before you try to be these world beaters under Steve McClaren, under these Manchester United coaches. Let's focus on winning something, anything, or doing anything good in the region first before we think about this English style of football, European style of football. Let's beat those kind of teams and whatnot. If you can't beat Guatemala, Guadeloupe, you're not going to beat USA, Canada, Mexico, and you're not going to beat especially the England, France's, and Argentinas of the world. So you have to bring in a North American.
You can't even, do European football, English style football when you don't even have your own type of football that you're trying to play. Like, I generally, when you watch Jamaica play, like, I don't know if you guys agree with me, or you guys, viewers yourself.
I would.
But there's nothing, like, I don't know what they're doing. I feel like I'm watching Lopetegui ball, reference to West Ham. Like, I generally have no idea what's happening on that pitch. They either boot it up, they play a string of passes, and then boot it up. Like, there's no, or they bypass the midfield entirely and just play it long down the wings, and then they expect something to happen magically. It's shocking. And then defensively, they've gotten worse. Like, they're in shambles. Like, back with the previous manager, it was, at least they could keep games close to an extent. You know what I mean? Like, they lost to the United States, in the Nations League, correct? Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, tragically, but like, at least it was 1-0. You know what I mean? At that point, and like, they could hold teams together. Yeah, they would fall apart towards the end against the better teams, but at least they were in the game for 80 plus minutes. This against Panama, they weren't in the game at all. They had it was a lucky chance that was created from good play, but one moment of okay play, and then that was it. And then we didn't see anything like that again. And it's just, I don't know what the identity or what type of style they're trying to do. If they're trying to do long ball, they're trying to maintain possession. Because even when they maintain possession, it's just flipping back and forth. They're switching the ball between left back, right back, center back to Andre Blake. And then Andre Blake somehow almost got assist against Guadeloupe because he just booted the ball forward and Bailey won his duel. Like, it's just like,
yeah, but that's also because Guadeloupe can't play defense.
No, I know, but it's like, but that was one of their best chances at the time was a long ball from Andre Blake, which came from a defensive mistake because he missed the header. So it was like, I just don't know what he's trying to implement, and at this point, you got to just play 5 in the back because you're leaking goals left and right.
That's what they try. I mean, that's the thing, though. Is like Steve. That's what he sets out to do. Unfortunately,
that's when the players have to step up and actually step when they should step. Because look, that Panama game,
it's a lot of ball chasing.
The Guatemala game was the same thing. Yeah, the goal came, but let's be honest here. Like, they didn't step when they needed to with that goal. Like, it came from a turnover, and then two players stepped to one person for no reason. And it's just like no one knows who's marking which space or which one to go to, and I don't know what they're doing in training. And it's just so bad. It's so bad. You got players out of form playing. I understand they're the best possible in that position. Like, Like Bell should not be playing. He was horrid. Yeah, he scored a goal. Congratulations, but he should not be the one scoring goals for you. You know what I mean? Defensively, he was horrid the entire tournament. And it's just that's when the players have to take accountability. Is when you play a 5 in the back, you have to be sound. You cannot have guys stepping and then the ball is literally going straight past both of them because no one's having any coverage and it's a 1-on-1. You know what I mean? It's just frustrating just to see like just the basics just not being done too.
Yeah. I mean, in regards to their, sorry, go again before I go.
I think they need like the new coach just to bring in also a new like crop of players or like mix it up because it's not just like the tactics. I think it's also who they're calling up that introduce like like other players that haven't been given a shot and just see where they can take them.
Yeah, that's a good point too because what Jamaica has over the rest of the CONCACAF, I would say, is depth. Like they have a good crop of players they can call up, and again, I mentioned every time I've named 28 different dual nats you can bring up into aid this team. But even not then, I mean, you have good players that they're not being chosen to bring up, particularly in the midfield and whatnot. Let's bring in some new faces. And you know what, the Unity Cup too, they brought in not the first team. Some players there were for the first team, yes, but not all of them were. You had a lot of players given these opportunities, and they did pretty good. And to the point where a lot of Jamaican fans wanted the same squad for this Gold Cup. And will they perform better? I wouldn't say no. And despite them not being the Leon Baileys, the Demarai Grays, these top expensive players, if you're bringing players that want that chance, that want to fight for that chance, obviously you're going to have something better. It's a lot like the USA kind of problem with their squad, right? Is like they have players that are coming in that know that they're going to play, that know they're going to get the opportunities no matter what, and they don't fight for the badge as much, or at least it doesn't look like it, because they know they're going to be there no matter what. You can say that with Leon Bailey, maybe. You can say that with Demarai Gray or whatnot. Not saying that they're not trying, but that is a symptom of all this that's going on, unfortunately. And back to Andres' point about no style, like they do have a style. It's just boot the ball up. And what does that mean? What does that mean as a manager? The manager doesn't know how to set this team up to succeed, right? All you can do is boot the ball up, and he doesn't change from that. Like there's nothing where it's like, okay, booting the ball up doesn't work. Let's switch to a more possession-based style. Let's switch to a style that plays more through the middle. Let's move the formation around. Let's get this player over here instead, and this player says no. He doesn't do that, Steve McClaren. Back to him. He doesn't do things like that with Jamaica. He just relies on moving the ball forward. It can kind of work with Mike Antonio, not saying it did when he was healthy, or Shamar Nicholson, not saying it did. But who are you booting the ball up to? Warner Brown, Demarai Gray, Cephas, and Leon Bailey? Like, what are they supposed to do there? They're supposed to battle for the ball, hope that it drops for a Jamaican player. But if you don't have players chasing after the ball and wanting to get on the ball, it's not going to drop for anybody. It's going to drop for the opposing team. And that's just what keeps happening over and over and over again. And at some point, it's due to the setup. And Steve McClaren doesn't know how to change from the setup. If it stops working, which it never has worked, but if it stops working, you switch it up, and Steve isn't doing that. Things like that just shows me that Steve is not capable of leading this team to any bit of success over time. And yes, like World qualification would be great. Yeah, if Steve did that, if he stayed and did that, yeah, a lot of people would be like, okay, you know what, Steve's fine. But at this point, I mean, you have a great team. You're ranked 63 in the world. That means you're better than like 130, 40 plus other teams in the world. Not only making the World Cup, let's make the World Cup and aim to win a game, win 2 games. Let's get out of the group. Yes, World qualification will be great, but limiting it at just that too for Steve, really telling me a lot of things there. Like we can strive for more, but Steve, I think, is the limiting factor in striving for more there. Okay, I digress. We could go on for 40 plus minutes talking about this man and why he should be gone, but we're not going to. It will come up in the future, I'm sure. We're going to end this here. Make sure to leave a comment down below your thoughts on Steve leaving or not. If you think he should, if you think he shouldn't, tell us your reasons why. Make sure to look forward to more Jamaican content and CONCACAF content in general in the next coming few months. All the way up to the World Cup, we have a lot planned for every single entity mentioned in this video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Leave a like if you want Steve out, and hopefully see you guys in future videos. Take care.